continue. Oh,
There we go.
there we go.
Mhm.
So hi.
Hi,
To start off with, would you like to say your name and where you are?
Caroline Paltin, and I'm temporarily in this place, but currently still in Orange County in California.
Okay. And I'm sure you know the first big question is who are you? Who are you as a human being? And that can be values, passions, qualities about yourself, or whatever you'd like to share.
Uh, I am a curious human being, and currently I'm interested in more of my relational experience. And before COVID, I was balancing it more towards the interest in arts and learning. So I think I'm more of a balance of that now. The relation and arts are a big focus of my interest right now, and trying to make enough time to do both. Um, that's that's me a lot, is exploring things, trying things, learning things, and expressing art in any way I can. I love art. It's in a lot of my day. Aesthetic is in a lot of my day. It's a big piece. I feel it strong now, maybe because I'm in quarantine. It feels more amplified, like the need for it.
Okay. And what about a value that you would say really sort of is a base for you or that you structure yourself around somehow?
Relational connectivity is a value that's really central. Like I notice that I seek it in almost everything I do. Um, and it's really strong now. It's just to be present with people, and present with myself. So I found it in mindfulness exploration of, trying to make contact in my grounding. I find it in dealing with my own need for being connected and not feeling alone. I find a sensitivity to it with students. I work with students that are um, really expressing a lot of loneliness now. So I feel the real strong need to do what we can on earth to bring connection, bring in connection to people and give them opportunities to connect. Everybody talks about how lonely they are, and where are all the people creating the opportunities to not be alone? So that's my value, is I want to create that opportunity somewhere, wherever it is, um, and I listen in for, I think I tune into people's loneliness uh, more now, and not just because of COVID. I think it might be because of my age too. I feel like the other things that I was more interested in are still there, like social justice. But it's social justice. How do I connect people who feel disenfranchised? So it's always the relational. I'm realizing it's more of a really integral thread in it all than I noticed for a while in my life. Yeah. And arts are a way I do it a lot. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So, a little bit about your own history. I'm wondering what comes to mind as an event or as a set of circumstances in your life that you would say have significantly shaped you in some way.
Um, Trying to figure out um, my family growing up, and why people did and thought and felt and related the way they did, drew me into psychology, because I found out at a pretty early age that people studied this stuff. And then I found out they went into therapy and treatment for it. So I was in therapy voluntarily at like 16, um, with an existentialist. So exploring was predominant in that. Um, in my college years, I was really into Jungian. I read all of Freud's volumes in between classes in the library, and then Jung's, and I was very captivated with it. And I loved existentialism. And then I found Irv's book, Every Person's Life is Worth a Novel, when I was 20, 21, I think. And that was pivotal for me. That I just couldn't believe somebody could have that perspective and share it. And it was so fresh to me. And it just changed my view of a lot of the trouble in my own part, and it made me more excited about and curious about myself. Um, I quit worrying about so much about what's wrong and looked at what is and what was there. So, like, really early resiliency before people were talking about it felt like a very strong piece for me then. And so then I just found where he was and studied with him and Miriam, and um, went to all of his presentations that I could get to in Southern California. And that led me into other people in Gestalt. And the first time I saw him present in a demonstration, I was just blown away by the difference between that and any other therapy I'd ever seen anybody do. And being present and available, curious, relating to somebody, it all fit. It clicked for me. It's like, this fits. And the
So,
psychoanalytic piece didn't feel as important anymore.
mhm. So would you say that Irv is one of the most significant people who you've met in your life, or does someone else also come up?
Irv is really probably the one of the top two. There's two that are equal for me. One is Irv, and definitely just it's been a treat to know him, to train with him, to work alongside him, collaborating on some things we've done with Life Focus. Um, uh, Pick his brain, hear his stories, share stories, laugh with him. Um, he really influential on my life. Like, the first time that I sat down with him for a real conversation was lunch, that we decided to talk about Life Focus as a possibility. It was about 4.5 hour lunch. And I wrote 14 pages about it right after he left. I just wrote it. I wanted to catch every little nuance and thought and idea about not just what our content or ideas were, but just how I felt about that experience. And it just kind of moved on from there, where we had a lot more lunches and gathered together. And he's been um, he's a really honest mentor. I feel there's a lot of trust with him, because I know he's not going to go somewhere he doesn't want to go. Um, and I've enjoyed the creativity at the same time with him to explore things. He allows me to have kind of a counterpoint to his work when we've done some Life Focus, bring in my art in a way that works. And yeah, and then uh, the other person that influenced me a ton isn't a Gestalt therapist, but was so open to it, and that is he was my dissertation chair. He was my mentor. And then he became my therapist years and years later. And that was Daryl Freeland. He's a psychologist who retired recently. And genius, kind, such a wonderful contributor to the field. Everyone who worked with him just adored him, and smart, and just really captured my ability to think about um, research and therapy. And even though my ideas were very different than his, he could just support it in a way that I would have an hour conversation with him and just explode with ideas. So those are interesting mentors to me, that when I can have a conversation and it's not just absorbing their idea, but it's like it ignites the flame, that's exciting to me. I
Yeah,
love
no,
that.
I don't think mentors are just expecting to be absorbed, by their
No.
mentees.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm interested. I noticed they're both men,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering about your own experience of your gender or of yourself as a woman.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too, is because I feel very I was raised in a very traditional view of women in my family, a very misogynistic view in some ways, like a view that women are inferior. And just joking the other day that when my husband got his doctorate, he's also a psychologist. Um, a family member of mine congratulated him and said, "Congratulations on becoming a doctor." And when I got my doctorate, it said, "Congratulations, now you're a doctorette." And it was that, this just kind of life that I grew up in. So in the field, I experienced both misogynistic stuff and devaluing of women, and great support. My my mentor, Daryl, was a really active feminist. He brought me more to feminism than a lot of the women in my life. He was having me read all this literature.
Mhm.
Um, really, really knew how to sit in it, what his role was before people even talked about allies. And uh, the other piece that I found is that um, I didn't have relationally a lot of very close women growing up that I related to as strong or really on a path of their own defining. So it was kind of weird and foreign, and I would gravitate more towards men who were doing it. And then when I went to do therapy, when I was young, I was doing therapy trying to be like them. And I'm a 19-year-old in a free clinic trying to act like a 50-year-old therapist, a male therapist, and it was
Mhm.
awful. It was awful work, awful. And they would encourage it. They'd say this to the guy, and I would okay, and later I had a female Gestalt group therapist who I gravitated towards, got a lot out of. And then Miriam, of course, was a huge influence. So Miriam Polster, um, the combination of her femininity and her power as a woman, I just find really unique. I don't find a lot of people that can flow like she could in that and be so musical and really, really good at staying with somebody, uh, not getting confluent, just good at it. And then in my most recent years, I've joined a group that we all sort of coalesced together after Toronto, which is Liv Estrup, Marlene Blumenthal, and Marilyn Lammert. And we meet every week on Zoom. We've been doing that since August, right after Toronto. Was that 2018?
2018. Yeah, I've heard about that group actually.
Yeah. And
Those are wonderful ladies.
oh, I am so grateful to ride on their pirate ship. I mean, it's really been a blast. It is so unusual to me to feel the kind of connection we developed, and we're always wondering that, all of us, why is this working so well and what's so good about it. And I just look forward to that every week, like a party. It's such a great. I know they're holding space for me, and I am for them, and we're all so interested in what each other's doing. We're all so different, and we all have this common bond. And gosh, I'm lucky. I just feel like
Mhm.
very lucky to be in that, and that's been a great source of delving into my femininity as well. Yeah.
Mhm. And I love that you answered the, experience of yourself as a woman relationally
Uh,
with a whole bunch of other people.
yeah, that really is.
I was like, yeah, I think we just confirmed what you said about the connection being important for
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
Hmm.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
When I
got
think about
that.
giving birth to my kids, it's the
Hmm.
relationship. It's they were inside of me, you know.
Hmm.
It's very, yeah, relational.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So I'm also wondering about your experience or your understanding of your privilege and your power.
Yeah. Um, I have two chapters. The first is I thought I was understanding it, and the second is now I'm seeing that I'm learning to understand it. Because I was very, very socially active. I grew up in a family that was you know, rooted in a lot of racist views. And my understanding of racism came out of figuring it out, that that's what they were doing. Because I was so innocent in the early years, I didn't know the words they were using or the way they would talk about people. And when I figured it out, I was probably 10-ish or 11-ish. And it was, how do I respect these people and feel what I feel about it? So I explored a lot of, what am I doing? What am I doing with people, and who am I friends with? And I was doing this at like sixth grade. Who am I friends with? Who am I not? Why am I interacting the way I do in the world? And what keeps me connected or separate? And that went on for a long time. And I became the benevolent helper of others. That was my role. Like, I'm going to I'm going to help uplift people, so recent years, I went to an international university because of all that. I didn't want an education from predominantly white Western people. Carl Rogers founded it. Viktor Frankl was there. Um, but they're white Western people. They brought in a lot of diversity of faculty, of student diversity from other countries. We had faculty from Kenya and Japan and China, Mexico, Nairobi. I had a family therapy class with a gentleman from Mexico City that, oriented to family therapy completely differently than what a lot of them would be doing in a lot of the courses I had had later with white faculty. So I think that was a core thing, is that cultural competency is important. And then the education from Daryl Sue's ideas on cultural competency, and then Kendi, it's been interesting, and I've been excited to just face the uncomfortable space now. I'm very excited about it. To see that I've taught courses on cultural competency, and I wish I could go back and undo a lot of what I taught.
Mm.
Now I teach it from a very different way, because I teach in psychology and human services, and I focus on it more on process and what's going on in us than on content stereotypes that are taught by chapters on things. Like one of the books I had when I first taught cultural competency was, there was chapter 9 was on Hispanic culture, and it was maybe 40 pages encompassing every country, every culture that is related to the term Hispanic in one lousy little chapter. There was one chapter on Asians. So it was so narrow, and we all drank it up and believed we were getting a great education in cultural awareness, So my kids
that's
are
the
very
difference between doing something and doing it well. Yeah.
and doing it well, and then sitting back and learning and noticing versus gathering up some information that validates the feeling that I'm doing something. And my kids are very active. Like, they go to protests and stay involved, and then now they're in the next layer of like, well, what do we do beyond that? So I like that I don't know much about it now. And I think it means I'm a little more open to hearing what other people have felt about what we've all been doing as we've been trying to help. And I like the conversations now. I work alongside a Black chairperson who's my faculty chair, and she's really great to talk to about it, and to support her and her to support me in it. It's a real fluid experience. I think it's very transparent. She just had Cornel West come, and it was great watching the dialogue. It was the most transparent conversation I've heard people have in a forum about it in a very long time. And I learned a lot about what I don't know, about what I do. That's where I am right now. Just trying to stay present in that.
Okay, and you say right now, so I'm also wondering, about time. How do you experience your age right now?
I don't know how old I am. If I think about it, I think I'm 50. I was born in 64, and I'm not able to do that. I think I'm like January, I'm turning 57 or 58. I know I'm somewhere in there.
Okay.
So my sense of age is that I don't pay a lot of attention to it. I'm horrible at knowing how old people are. It's like I'm terrible at it. I underestimate people's age all the time, and this makes me very happy. I know I look at a lot of my relationship with age is about a lot of my dearest friends and people that I care about are much older than me, and I'm thinking a lot about where I'll be when they go. And um, that's age is there for that. My kids growing, like that, 18 and 24 now. Um,
Wow.
what the heck happened? It's true that it just goes by in a minute.
In a
But
really long minute, but yeah.
yeah, but I don't worry a lot about getting older. Um I don't have a I have a fear of death, but I don't have a fear of getting older, which is weird. I have a fear of losing functioning. Um I don't like that, the changes that have happened. But I like the movement. I like moving along, and I really enjoy 40, 50 up much more than I did the anxiety and the insecurity in 20s. I'm so glad to be done with
Hmm.
that. And yeah, I wanted to be a crone when I was 30. I was really looking forward to it. So I don't know if I'm approaching it yet. Maybe I'm there and I just don't know, or
Yeah, I don't know. Do you get like a certificate in the mail when you hit that level or something?
Croneship. Yeah. Chronology. I can study it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I appreciate all of this, and I'm wondering about your relationship with Gestalt. How did that get started, and what did you find there?
I don't remember how I found Irv's book, but that's how it started, was reading the Every Person's Life is Worth a Novel. I had no idea, maybe it was sitting on a shelf next to some of the psychoanalytic stuff, and I just picked it up because nobody referred me to it. There were no Gestalt people in my world at that point. I was like 21 or so. I was in my grad program, or my undergrad. And then I went to Irv, some of his trainings and demonstrations in grad school. I kept seeking out Gestalt leaning people. And then when I did his training, really that moved me into it. But I didn't feel part of the community until uh, I was a Silomar when I went to AAGT, and I peripherally showed up, and I was hanging out with Irv a lot, and and I was going through a rough time with my job at an institution. I was running a grad program, and I was needing to get out of it. I felt very consumed by negative energy with it, and I really envied the interactions. And I was sitting with it was Irv and Eleanor. We were sitting at a table, and I chat with them, and it was really neat. And then went off to my room, and I said, I'm not, I'm not part of this. Like, I'm not. And I loved
Oh,
my process group was amazing. That it was a phenomenal group of people. I loved it. And I went to my room, and I could hear people at the fire pit. Um, and then they were laughing, and I just felt like I can't not go out there and see what's up. So I went down, and that's where I met probably 2 or 3 people that I've stayed in close touch with, that over the years, that were in my process group. And had some really intimate discussions. And one thing to the next, I think Alan was playing music, sing along that night, and our process group used a lot of music. Um, it was wonderful. And then I felt like a lot, looking back on that, what if I had not went down there? What would have happened?
hmm.
And that leads me a lot to relationship, is just don't sit on impulse. The worst thing that can happen is the worst thing, and I'll
You
deal
could
with
end
it.
up alone in your room again, right? Like
Right.
that's where you
Yeah.
were.
Yeah. So I tend to lean towards jump in, and even though I'm afraid of something, I'd rather have a fall flat or a horrible experience trying to be connected than to sit around saying, I wish I had talked to that woman at that coffee house. I wish I,
Yeah. Yes,
I
no
wish,
regrets, no regrets, right?
no, not in the reaching out. There's regret in
Hmm.
the why didn't I?
Hmm. So,
Yeah.
do you feel like you're part of a Gestalt community?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I've held back in some ways because of time constraints on doing a lot more to be involved. So I'm clearing paths more lately since I've been in a work situation where I'm able to. That
Hmm.
was why reaching out to the peer group was a good time to do that and start that. Yeah.
So, how would you say that Gestalt has affected you as a person?
It is both isolating and restorative. It's it made me more experimental in my interests and relationship. It softened my blows of my criticalness towards myself. I don't I don't beat myself up like I used to. I used to try to be um, doing it right. Was my 20s was I have to get it right. I have to do it right. I have to be the best. I have to be really good at this. I can't make a mistake. I let go of that. Um, I got more playful in art. I try things because I like to and I want to experiment, and I don't worry if I'm not good at it. I've been writing poetry every day for years, and that came out of a poetry Gestalt group that I had been in, and the idea that I don't care about publishing it. I just write it. I just like to write and express. And I've been in some poetry groups that are about helping people get published, and I just play in them, and everybody else in the room is very stressed out about getting the words, and I'm going, I just felt like saying, you know, obsequious because it sounded nice, and I don't really care. I'm not going to write it. I'm not going to publish it. So I enjoy all of that. I love it. Gave me that. It gave me the ability to find a way to be present and listen better. I like to keep trying. And the isolating side is that I find I want certain people to come along for the ride in it that are not that way. So I can get frustrated when I walk out of like an AAGT gathering, get on a plane and go back to some sphere of my life where nobody's doing this. And
Yeah.
then I feel so alone. I feel so alone, you know, and I try to look at that the same way that I would just encountering somebody with difference in a Gestalt encounter. That, you know, well, they don't have to be doing it the way I do. But it does feel lonely to not have the same language with a lot of other spheres of my life, and the pace that people get into of being absorbed in things that are uninteresting, you know.
Well, they must be interesting to them, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like workload stuff, like people spending time in
Yeah.
meetings. And the first time I was in a Gestalt meeting that was also about relationship as we were doing work, it was like, oh, you know, this is amazing. This is
Hmm.
amazing that we're paying attention to this. And it's not seen as sort of like the thing you do if you have time at the end of the meeting. You know, it's just what is. And I miss that when I'm in situations where people don't even consider it. It's not even a part of the consideration.
Okay. So you can answer this either sort of on a more personal level or in relation to Gestalt, but I'm wondering what comes to mind as a challenge that you've run up against.
Um, anything like it within me or outside relationally.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think in terms of challenge unless it's physical. That's interesting. Like I when I start thinking about challenge, I think of physical limitations um, that I do have, and like what comes to mind. And tomorrow, if you talk to me about it, I have a way better idea. But what's coming to mind is is that I stay away from movement things because of my back injury, and I have a fused back. Um, I'm a horrible dancer. I am so uncoordinated. Um, so I will jump into singing with somebody, but dancing I will jump away. And I've had uh, my kids are both great dancers, and when they're in dance classes, somebody will invite me. No, come on, we can teach you. We're going to teach you salsa or cumbia or like. And then they, after a while, they go, no, no, we're not. No, we can see. No, you go sit down again. You were right. You know.
Oh,
And I'm okay with not being good at dancing, but it's a challenge to try to be involved in things sometimes when that's brought in, you know, when
hmm.
movement is brought into something we're doing and I want to be part of. and the part of means I'd have to be able to dance, or
Is
athletic.
it even a challenge like the authentic movement? Like when you put music on at a Gestalt conference, it starts to look like some kind of authentic movement workshop because nobody's really dancing. They're just kind of like feeling the
Yeah,
movement.
I'm comfortable with that.
Hmm.
I tried contact movement dance at Toronto with a friend who knew how to do the contact dance, because Patrick and some people had got up to do a contact dance at the in the evening, and she tried to show me, and she was saying, your fear of falling into me is really there, like your fear of being coordinated or not with me. So I was noticing that the anxiety I have around not being able to dance fluidly. So when I closed my eyes, she had me close my eyes and do it with her, and I just had to sense her more than think about it. And it was a lot nicer to surrender into knowing she's not going to let me fall. It was probably a stupid assumption, but I did trust her, and she didn't let me fall. But it was really nice, and I experienced that as an interesting thing. But I would if you told me you were doing a contact dance workshop, I'd be not signing up for that. You'd have a space available. Like,
Oh, good to know. So
but
I
I'd
know
like
what
to
to
watch.
not to invite you for.
I love to watch it. I love to watch dancers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the flip side, that's like what you avoid. But what about some of the highlights for you? What comes to mind as one of your greatest experiences around Gestalt? Either as a clinician or in your own process or in training or whatever.
It's the heightened feeling of connection and presence. And I can think of many moments of that, with clients, with Irv. Um, what's coming to mind right now is a time that Irv was describing how he met Miriam. And it's vivid. His it was an interesting story, and I won't share his own story, but he was creative in how he found where she was. And he had met her once, and then he said, I want to meet her again. He said, I want to know, where do I find her? And he actually did some creative moves to find her. And these interesting stories that people share, it happens in process groups. It happens in moment with a client. It happens with a friend when I'm tuned in a way that is more, you know, being open and surrendering to the listening. And that is really the impact on me. That's the, um, so darn grateful this was created, feeling that I orient this way to it. There's just an orientation to um, listening and being listened to. The idea that seeing someone being seen
Hmm.
can be something we agree we're going to try to make happen.
Hmm.
I love it, even if there's real high contrast in it. It's just um, exciting to me. Much more exciting than when I worked at a retail store and I was scanning tags and putting things in bags.
Yeah, that's not so much about like mutually being invested in each other in the relationship.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that we're gonna try to be in right now, and we're gonna sit here in this moment.
Hmm.
I love that. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a little bit about where you've come from and people you've met. So what have you done with this? Like what has been your work or your piece? I know you've talked about life focus, but I don't really know what that is. So I'm kind of curious about what your thing is.
Yeah. Like I've loved training people in Gestalt. I've done that for years, running workshops. Um, I teach graduate students in workshop, and recently now undergraduate, it comes into classes. So then actually life focus came about because I was tired of people wanting mechanistic technology. They wanted to mechanize the session. Students wanted the mechanization. They wanted to know, what do I say when somebody does this? And I wrote a pretty negative letter to Irv about it. I said, is this a trend? Why is it I'm hearing this so much more? And the process is not important to people. And he said, you want to have lunch? And then we talked about it. And he said, I'm writing this book and I'm
Mhm.
talking about this idea that I had way long ago. And now this is what I want to do with it. And I said, we could do this maybe with it. Is this what you do? I don't get it. What are you telling me you do with it? And we spent a long time with me getting the sense of the design. And then I went, I could do art and relational stuff with people, and it doesn't have to be about solving a problem. Wow. So the way I evolved my piece into it is that I use Irv's design, which is that we hold a meeting, we have a theme, whatever themes are courage, ballroom. We did one on ballroom dancing.
You missed that one, right? You
I
were afraid
showed
of
up.
it?
I showed up. I did. Um, and I was dipped and learned how to dip. And we've got him on music, singing, courage, home, belonging. And we talk about it, or we do a demo. We might do like a demo of somebody processing it, or a group, small process group, like sort of like Bud's style of just processing with what's coming up about belonging with the four of us right now. And then the whole group would break out into smaller groups. And then the smaller groups discuss what they felt about what we did, if it was music or dance or a poem or conversation. And that gives them opportunity to delve into the concept or run away from it or do whatever they want to do with it. And then when we come back to the plenary, we've got all these ideas now, and people might not want to share something in that large group that they might be really excited to share with one person they locked eye contact with. So it's got that element that I love of no group think really happening. Lots of different ideas. We're not trying to solve a problem. We're just trying to deeper experience what we already experience, so stories of people's lives. And and then we might do another piece with it that day. And another element that was really smart for Irv with that, breaking them out, is he equated it with church. That in church, there are people that get in the front row and they're all in, and they're, on the church board, and, or there's people that learn every bit of liturgy. And then there's somebody who comes in every time for years in the back, never meets anyone, never talks to anyone, and they're getting something out of it too. So it allows for all those layers. You could be risky in it. You can, you could hide in the room and just observe. And I love it. I love that it is playful. And a lot of what I felt in your online Gestalt workshop that we're doing as a student of yours, that I feel like it's compatible. It's a lot of similar experimental feeling. And sometimes you get people that are very willing to experiment and sometimes not. And I love it. I love that I can just kind of conjure up what's of interest to people. Right now, I'm wanting to bring a woman in I know who does poetry around catastrophe, and have us do a little poetry writing around that, and then see what comes out of people's first or many down the road opportunity of writing a poem, and sharing it. Mm-hmm. It's neat. I also like the one-on-one though. I do both. I don't just do the groups. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I appreciate that you spelled that out, because I was really curious about what the life focus groups are and how they're working. So that sounds very unique. And you're right, it's very much aligned with my own interests and my ways
Yeah.
of working.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the last official question is really, what's next? Where are you going? Do you have any particular projects coming up? And also, where you think Gestalt could or should be going?
Where am I going? Where I'm going next week is hopefully to closer to getting back into my house that's under repair. So that's on my thoughts. My physical where. Um, I am really getting more opportunity to explore because my work is in a place now where I can do more. So I want to do some work with music and Gestalt and life focus. I'd like to do some more with that with regards to improvisational opportunities for people to heal with music. I did some research with that for 2 years where I brought in musicians for people who were traumatized, and I'd like to do it more as a 1 or 2 day opportunity, like a workshop. That's in my mind. Um, where I think Gestalt needs to move um, everywhere and in all directions.
This all needs a movement workshop, huh?
No, yes, yeah, no. See, I'm telling
Needs to be
everybody else,
activated.
but I'm not willing. Yeah, yeah. I really feel like there's so much of a need for what we do and the way we uniquely create opportunity to explore and connect. And I'd like to see it used more in social justice avenues and dialogues, like having these difficult dialogues, like some of the great work that's been going on in IAAGT with that. Um, I'd like to see in my own work bringing people together who feel lonely and giving them a sense that there's a lot more to focus on than I feel alone, especially when we have a lot of opportunity to connect and we have a lot of people wanting it. And it's interesting that there's a supply and demand that's really strong there, and yet everybody says they can't get there. And I'm interested in that. So I'd like to see Gestalt move towards how we connect people. I think you've done really cool things with that, and the rooms that have been set up in Zoom that people are using, and like that struck me, just moved me so much that people are using their skills, talents, and effort in that way. It's really exciting to me.
For connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
very much agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So, is there anything else that you would like to add right now? I feel like we're going to keep running into each other, and I'd love to have more conversations. And you
Yeah,
have a
I did
beautiful
too.
backyard there, but
Yeah.
is there anything you want to add to this particular piece?
Um, I just hope that, if people are interested in Gestalt, looking at these pieces that you do, that they would reach out and they would look to whoever's of interest to them and um, find out what's interesting about it to them instead of browsing and moving on. I hope we bring some more people into this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, this is
I'm
going to be one of those like interactive art installations. Don't worry.
nice. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not just like a banana duct taped to the wall or anything like that. It's much more.
Might be good to duct tape me to the wall, then I know I won't move in bizarre ways with my back skills, right? But then
Okay.
yeah, it'd be interesting. No,
So
yeah,
you want some follow up
yeah,
and some
I'd be
reaching out.
interested. I'd be interested in what people are interested in about any of it. Yeah,
Mhm.
I like those conversations. Yeah. And I'm interested if other people are doing similar things. Every once in a while you meet
Mhm.
somebody and they say, I'm doing exactly what you're doing. I've been doing it for 10 years, and you're like, oh, where did you come from? How did I not
Yeah,
know
it
you?
would have saved me a lot of work to learn from
Right.
people who are doing this, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I agree. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully this will make things a little bit more transparent and accessible in some way. I mean, everybody's life is, definitely worth a novel, but I think this is like the contemporary fast food media kind of version of that.
Yeah.
Of, okay, it's not a novel that takes a really long time to write and edit and publish, um, but definitely worth a YouTube video for sure.
Yeah. Everybody's life is worth a audio recording, right?
Yeah, a human's interview. There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. If it's okay with you, we can leave this one here for now, and I will run into you somewhere else somewhere soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing you again. I really enjoy the playtime with you. It's been great.
Okay. So
Right.
thanks.